What up, HyperChange? Welcome to another episode of Sunday Schemin'. Mixing up the format a little bit. Today we're going to do another deep dive like we did last week. This week it's all about Apple. News has been surfacing that Apple applied for a self-driving vehicle permit in California. Apple has had this secretive car program in the works for years under the codename Project Titan. Now, I personally thought this kind of fizzled because it seemed like a bunch of headlines popped up last year saying they couldn't actually do a car. It turned out like it was going to be too hard, so they abandoned the project, and we kind of stopped hearing about it. I kind of assumed that was the case, and frankly never really expected Apple to actually build a car because I just think it's a lot harder than building a phone. But now, with this news that they've applied for a self-driving permit in California, it looks like Apple's dreams have not died. But does this mean they're doing the right thing? Does this mean it'll actually work? I don't know. I'm very skeptical of what Apple's doing in the car industry because I just think Tesla is so far ahead in terms of executing on the pretty much the same vision I feel like Apple would build that I don't understand why they're just trying to replicate Tesla's business model instead of going after an industry that doesn't have a mega disruptor with an incredible CEO that's already 10 steps ahead. And now I agree that cars are a big market and a massive opportunity and there's huge disruption that needs to occur, but just because it's a big market doesn't mean Apple should enter it, and they frankly haven't recently shown the ability to launch products on a big enough and successful scale to make me think they'd win at a car. The watch was great, but I think it has underwhelmed almost everybody's expectations in terms of the impact it's had to the company's bottom line. But that brings us to the second piece of news that Apple's been working on, which is apparently for 5 years, Apple's had a top secret team working on a diabetes treatment, some sort of way to monitor the glucose levels in your blood without pricking your skin. So this would kind of build into that watch ecosystem of we're not just tracking your steps, we're not just tracking where you go and your heart rate and all this other stuff, but we're also going to track your glucose levels, and that, disrupts this whole market of instead of pricking you, you can monitor your glucose without doing these pricks, and it's a lot more convenient, and so it'll make a lot of people's lives better. This is great that Apple's working on this, but I can't help but feel like they're just kind of scattered like a chicken running around with their head cut off. I just can't help but feel that Apple seems a little bit directionless. All of these projects don't really have a common thread. It seems like they kind of think something's a good idea, hire a bunch of smart people about it, research it for 5 years, and then nothing ever happens. So I'm really disappointed. I'm hoping Apple will come out with something new soon. Apple used to be a bet that everything was being disrupted, that everything was changing. We were going to the smartphone first era. That was a contrarian viewpoint when Apple was rising, and you were betting on an industry being disrupted and this change, and Apple was the vanguard of that. Now, Apple is a bet on stagnation. The fact that Warren Buffett has bought the stock pretty much cements this fact. Apple's innovation is dead. They're a stable cash cow. If you're buying them, you're betting that things will not change. You're betting that people will use the iPhone in perpetuity and it'll be a cash cow, and this is going to be an incredible company because they're going to return all that stable cash flow to shareholders. It's going to be a nice and safe return. That's all gravy, but the mindset is switched from this is an innovator to this is a dinosaur. And so that's what I want to highlight today, is that Apple is slowly becoming a dinosaur. They might already be a dinosaur, and these projects of self-driving cars in California and a diabetes team, frankly, are all hype until I actually see a product hit the market. Apple has an absurd R&D budget. Absurd. If you look at Apple's R&D costs, they've been in an incredibly accelerating uptrend, or not accelerating, but a very consistent growth. In fiscal year 2013, they did about $4.5 billion, 2014, $6 billion, 2015, $8.1 billion, and then fiscal year 2016, the one that ended in September, at the end of September in 2016, they did $10 billion in R&D. So in 3 years, they more than doubled their R&D division, even though revenue only grew at 10 or 20% in that time. But they doubled R&D. But what new products have they come out with? Maybe the Apple Watch, but I don't know. To me, that didn't cost $5 billion a year in excess R&D. So they're definitely spending money and hiring very expensive and important people in these areas like diabetes and self-driving cars, but it just hasn't worked out to anything. And maybe I'm not looking through this long term enough, and they will launch the car, it'll be super successful, they're just taking their time till they get it right. But something feels like Apple is just shooting at whatever they think is the hot subject. They hire people around it, and there's just no congruent vision tying it all together, driving these products to market, making sure they're actually successful. I think they have why are they working on new products when they could just make the watch better? Like, I still feel like everyone should be wearing an Apple Watch, or like, was that not the vision when they launched the product? They're nowhere near that. So why don't they keep improving and iterating and like develop that into as big of a hit product as the iPhone? Because I think they realized it flopped. So they're not doing, so I'm losing confidence in Apple. It's been said a million times, but I just feel like Tim Cook is not an innovator. He's an operator. They need to bring in someone who's not scared to take a risk with their 200+ billion in cash and try something new. Because if they never try something new, they're just going to slowly burn away their cash and wait for someone to disrupt them. So I think buying Apple today, even though the stock looks very cheap and they have a massive cash cushion, is frankly, I am not bullish on the company at all, because I see no innovation. In 5 years, I see there being a new medium where we interact with our digital lives, and it may not be the iPhone. And I don't see Apple leading this charge anywhere else. Maybe I'm underestimating the stickiness of the monopoly of iOS, but it's just the fact that this is a bet on stagnation and a bet on nothing changing is definitely a totally different Apple than we've ever seen before. I think cars are like the worst idea for them to get into, because it's such a capitally intensive business. If there's a way for Apple to spend $200 billion or waste a good chunk of that, it's trying to compete with Tesla on cars. Tesla has all the brain power, all the expertise. They are 10 to 15 years ahead in terms of the technology. They've sold over 100,000 cars, probably approaching 200,000 cars total soon. It's like, you're just playing catch up to a company that is so far ahead in such a capitally intensive industry. It seems like the last thing to go for. It does not make sense that why Apple wants to build a car, other than that it's a massive opportunity and Steve Jobs mentioned it. But pick an industry that Elon Musk hasn't already disrupted and isn't already 10 steps ahead of you when you're trying to pick a new avenue. That's why this diabetes thing seems way more promising to me. And it's a double down on not only the watch and health, but services. So then we could see Apple migrate into somewhat more of a services company where they're selling you, the iPhone and the watch become sticky because of the services attached with them. Like, if your health and your doctor and your insurance are all tied into this device that's tracking you, that's going to be a really, really sticky device. So I love what they're doing in health, but at the same time, in the Apple-esque fashion of the last 5 years, I feel like the innovation and pace of treatments that are occurring on the watch, or useful health services on the watch, are just not there. I've never owned an Apple Watch. I played with some of my friends, and I don't know, I was never even convinced that the step counter was that accurate, so I'm just not buying into it. It doesn't move the needle for my health, so I'd never buy one. But if they can figure out how to get these products to move the needle on your health, then it'll be a lot more sticky. So I like that upside for Apple, and I think they should keep doubling down on software and health and not waste billions on cars. Think how many treatments like the one that they're trying to work on for diabetes could be done for the equivalent budget of what they're trying to do with the car company. And there isn't already a watch company with a technology that doesn't require a pinprick that is going to disrupt the diabetes market. There is already that in the car market with electric cars and autonomous cars. That's Tesla. So go where there isn't anybody else. That's what I would advise Apple to do. That's why I like changing notes a little bit in terms of what they're doing from the media standpoint of trying to produce content, like their whole new show, Planet of the Apps. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's about, they even have Gary Vee on the show, I think Gwyneth Paltrow, a couple other big entrepreneurs, and are basically copying Shark Tank. So I guess, once again, Apple's innovation here not too strong. But their pivot into being a media company and producing content, I think, is also smart and shows them doubling down on the services. If they could pull it off, this will be a good thing. If not, it'll just be another cash suck for billions of dollars. So from a high level, another reason from a high level, the core reason I'm bearish on Apple is because none of these projects have a congruent vision, and it seems like they're just accelerating their cash burn by increasing their R&D budget, and they're never bringing anything to market. So all of this is happening, and it's causing them to lose focus on making their smartphone and their smartwatch better. In theory, they should have an unlimited amount of resources because they have an unlimited amount of money, but I just don't think there's an unlimited amount of smart people at Apple who know how to bring things to market successfully. And maybe they've all left because frankly, that's what it seems like. Even these rumors about augmented reality in the iPhone, they've been around for years, and then they said it was going to be in the iPhone 8, and it was going to be a whole big deal. Bloomberg did a massive report on it. We even included it in the podcast. And now, like a week ago, they've come out with another report saying like, oh, Apple's augmented reality features in the iPhone are getting delayed. Like, this is pathetic. They delayed their car project. They can't get any health apps actually out on the market. Like, everything is a flop. They can't get their augmented reality in the phone. They have more money than ever. They're more profitable than ever. They should have the most freedom to do, like, innovate and create incredible products than ever before, and yet none of it is happening. I think that's a huge red flag, and I think it's only a matter of time before the next generation of platforms that just displaces iPhone and touch happens. And frankly, we're already seeing, like, the seedlings of this with Alexa and voice. Voice is quickly becoming the new paradigm for how we interact with digital computers, and this is directly taking away interactions through the iOS platform and negatively impacting their service revenue. Hear me out. You order an Uber through Alexa, I don't think Apple's App Store revenue is getting a cut of that Uber ride like you did if you did it on your app through your iPhone. Same with if you order on Seamless. Same with if you order something on Amazon. I don't know. Like, anything that you're doing on Alexa, you probably used to do on your iPhone, and now you've migrated that interaction to a voice platform that's not owned by Apple. So, Apple missed the boat on voice. I don't know why they're not investing in that. I mean, Siri has been, like, the first to market with an AI, but the last to improve and the least, and today probably the lagging AI behind Google. And I would even bet Microsoft is ahead of Apple. Just, I don't know, that's just a total guess, but just given how crappy everything that Apple does recently. Just a weird position, because the iPhone is such a hit product. They're making so much money with it that they've been lulled into complacency. They don't want to ruin this massive cash cow that they have. And so it looks like, you know, if you calculate, even if they stop getting revenue and they burn $20 billion a year, they would still have 10 years of runway because they have $200 billion. Even if the iPhone flops tomorrow, they have enough cash in the bank to launch something else and give this a shot. So it would be really, really hard to kill Apple unless they try and go balls to the wall and build a car company, which is why I think they definitely should not do that, because that will make them very easy to kill. So they're not easy to kill, they're not growing, but their core cash cow business of the iPhone could go away at any moment. So I think that's why the market doesn't give Apple a justifiable, in whatever some investors' words, PE. You know, they're trading at 10 times operating, 11 times operating income, for the reason that this operating income is the bulk of it, 90%, iPhone sales, not recurring. They're trying to tell you this story of, oh, we're growing our services revenue, we're going to transition to this services company. That's been, I mean, it's happening, but it's so slow, and it's such a fraction of the actual business that if the iPhone vanishes, Apple's not a $200 billion business, they're a $20 billion business, and then I don't think they're worth $700 billion. Like, their earnings are just not recurring. This isn't Salesforce where they're getting a check every month for the software and you actively have to uninstall it. Like, SaaS companies, you know, there's something to them having a high price sales valuation. Apple has got to convince you to buy that freaking phone every single year. They need to be the best phone in the market. If they're not, everybody's going to buy something else in 1 year, and Apple's business is going to crumble, and that's why the market's not giving them a PE for 20 years of profits, because this business could crumble tomorrow. In my opinion, I don't think the app moat is that strong. Buffett disagrees. This is why he bought it. But I just think Alexa is the definitive proof that Apple's a dinosaur and losing. Voice is the new platform. Every single interaction on Alexa is replacing an interaction that would have happened on iOS. Like, if you don't think that is a major red flag alert, what do I want to see Apple do? How the hell can they fix this? Stop doing the car. Number one, you're going to lose to Tesla. Either try and buy Tesla out. I think there's a 0.001% that actually happens because Elon loves the company too much. But if you're going to do cars, buy out Tesla. Otherwise, stop spending money on it. It's a waste of time. That's what I'm saying. Number two, double down on services. Planet of the Apps sucked balls because you just copied Shark Tank. Try and do something original. Hire a real creator and give them free reign and really push the pedal to the metal if you want to be a content company. Don't just copy Shark Tank with a show called Planet of the Apps and expect it to take off, because I don't think that's going to be enough. And I think you spent way too much money on a carbon copy of a show that already exists, and it's kind of going to be a flop. So I like services, but I think Planet of the Apps is going to be a misfire. really like this diabetes thing. However, it's not in market. It's probably not going to get to market for years. It's probably mostly hype, so I don't want to give Apple kudos for doing it. But I like the fact that they're spending time on this, and I think if they can transition their products to not only be a necessity for your digital life and social media, then they can stay relevant by being these devices that monitor our health and make us healthier and improve our everyday lives through that. Really sticky business. Tons more revenue opportunities in healthcare. I love that. So Apple needs to fire all your car people, probably fire everybody who you hired to work on Planet of the Apps, hire some new young director to build other crazy content that's not a copy of Shark Tank, come on, and then double down on more teams investing in products like these diabetes services, because that's going to make your watch and your iPhone much stickier and drive device sales and, cultivate that business model that Apple pioneered of the software sells the hardware, which generates the high gross profit, and that's why we have, 40% gross margin on $200 billion in revenue. The other big thing Apple's just 100% needs to do is release a home device like Alexa, or like the Echo with Alexa. Like, how have they just watched Amazon with the Echo perpetrate into millions of Americans' homes, crush their use cases, and they still haven't put this out? Like, Siri sucks, but they already have Siri. Like, how hard is it to put her in a Bluetooth speaker? And I don't know. So maybe the AirPods are eventually going to replace Alexa, and that's Apple's bet on voice, is Siri's in your AirPods, so she's in your ear, so she doesn't even be on your table because she follows you around. That could work, but we haven't seen it really. To sum it up, I really view Apple as a dinosaur. They're a bet that things will stay the same in perpetuity, not that things will change. Things always change, so if Apple doesn't change, they are going to lose and become irrelevant, and it's going to happen really quickly. The final shoe hasn't dropped, where Alexa is not really good enough to kill them yet, but there's a lot of things that are getting close to that uh-oh moment of where Apple becomes officially not the platform anymore for digital interaction. And we're getting close, and then, I don't know, just if you're a tech company and Warren Buffett starts buying your stock, that means you are not taking enough risks. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Anyway, safe stock. If you're looking for a really boring dividend that looks safer than it actually is, and a company that's not going to innovate but will pretend to tell you it's going to compete with Tesla, go for it, buy Apple. But I think this is a bet on stagnation. They're a dinosaur in the tech world that never seems to last. They have almost no recurring revenue relative to their iPhone business, which is almost this is a device company. They need to sell new iPhones every year. If they don't do that, they're screwed. Something's going to come along that's better soon. Stop pissing money away into cars. Double down on services. Get better at health. Build a bigger moat around what you have that's working to protect it. Anyway, that's what I think Apple should do. If you guys have any comments, thoughts, ideas on moonshots that Apple could do to try and improve, get back to growth, reinvigorate their moat, make the iPhone stickier, better, maybe even figure out a way to chip into Alexa, figure out how to dethrone Alexa and the momentum that Amazon has with that, I would love to hear it, because I don't see it happening anytime soon. I see Alexa and Amazon and Google just getting more relevant in the home with voice-activated technologies. Apple just slowly losing relevance until they fade away if they don't do anything about it. Yeah, anyway, that's HyperChange, Sunday Schemin'. Hope you guys liked it. Tune in next week. Something real epic coming soon. Peace out.